History Month too. So there's so many things to celebrate. But Shoshana, thank you for helping us opening February here, and we're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for the invitation to be here. I love love. I think everybody can use some more love in their life. And I think everybody can relate love in some way to something that's going on in their life, whether it's personal or professional or their hobbies. We're driven by love. We are love people.
Yes. Oh, you know what? Let me record this. I almost forgot. So, yes, absolutely. Love is what it brought us here. And I think we can never, ever get tired of talking about love. And so we're going to have Sarah start with us about her love journey and how her history is, just a little introduction. And then we're going to pass around and we're going to get to Shoshana.
Yeah, sure. Yes, let me introduce myself real quick, and I'll share with you what my love journey. Well, first, let me say that I grew up in Cambodia, and my love for my life is I enjoy the countryside lifestyle. That's how I grew up. And when I graduated from high school, I had an opportunity to attend college, and I went there away from home. And while I was in college, the communists took over our country. That's when my life was turned upside down, and they just destroyed our country, and I was desperately away from home. But what kept me alive is my love for my family. It's that love so strong that I will do anything. I will fight for my life until the last breath, until whatever I cannot do. So I was so hopeful that one of these days I will be back to my hometown, to my family, and my love for my family that kept me alive. And not only that, I was able to escape from the communist regime and finally escape from the country and found my way here to United States. So that's how I get here. And I record my journey in my book, and it's called How I Survived the Killing Fields. And it's available on my website, sarahim.com. So now I am an inspirational speaker. I love to go in the community and sharing my story to encourage, to motivate, to inspire people, because we should not give up our life. And that's about me in a nutshell. And so if you ever know somebody who need an inspirational speakers, reach out to us, to either me or Lee. We both can help.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes. Wow. This one phrase that I saw some of the shopping mall that are on the picture frame, and it say, "Life take you places, but love leads you home," and it's so resonant with me. I bought the frame, obviously, and it reminds me. It's almost like my uh, philosophy in life, and why I am also was a former refugee, came out from Vietnam, same time frame with Sarah, in 1979, after 4 years of living in the oppressive regime under communists. So the love of my parents, my family, my siblings, that actually led me to a point that I'm worked really hard because I know that I want to help them, to assimilate. The first decade in America was not something easy, but love conquer all, because it drive the determination, it drive the things that you want to do. And after 40 years, love have driven me to write my story, to share my memoir, and also my talk on the TEDx. And like Sarah, I also want to inspire people to take action, live a full life so they don't miss out anything in life. Um, because if they have the love for themselves and their families, they can conquer it all. And today we have Shoshana, and Shoshana is going to tell us a little bit about, what the love journey have brought her to what she's doing and what she's focusing on in order to help us here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the platform to speak. I mean, I think that we all find love in our life in terms of a person who we can express a lot of love for, and we have a lot of love for our family. And I was lucky enough that when I was actually 18 years old, I met my husband. He wasn't my husband yet. We waited a little bit, but I was able to meet my husband. And when we had children, it was definitely, the best. It was to be able to have children together was amazing and wonderful. But while I was pregnant with my second child, we were told by the doctors that it was very possible that I'd be raising them alone, and that I would lose the person who I loved most in the world, that my children wouldn't grow up having a husband and he wouldn't, having a father, and he wouldn't be there to help raise them. And that was a very, very scary point for us. And love is something that pushed him to say, why is this happening to my body? Why do I have a tumor? Why do I have heart disease when I'm doing all the things that are supposed to make me healthy? And what do I do? And he found a plant-based lifestyle, and that was what was proving to reverse and prevent heart disease. It was showing that there was a big correlation between the foods that we ate and the animal products that we ate and the growth of cancer. And he gave up foods that he loved because he loved his children more, he loved me more. And within a year of going completely plant-based, his tumor shrunk, his heart disease went away, and we were basically, no, I think nobody's ever in the clear, but we had cleared those main concerns. And, for the last 10 years, we've been raising these two beautiful, wonderful children together. And love is really something that drove us to wanting to make sure that no other family ever went through what we went through unnecessarily again. So that means that I ended up leaving teaching. I ended up getting, everything that I need to get in terms of the healthing world to be able to help other people, because we didn't want other families to be ripped apart. Because when health issues come up, it does rip people apart, and it hurts. And I ended up with some mental health issues and PTSD because of it. And it affected my parents and his parents and our siblings. And we just didn't want to see that for other people. So love for other people really drove me to want to help other people never go through what we went through. And of course, I went through my own health issue a little bit later. And once again, driven by love for my children, for my husband, for my parents, to really allow me to let go of my ego, open up my eyes, and look for what else is out there to help me so that I can be the best mother, wife, sister, daughter that I can be. So when you have a drive and you have a why, and that relates back to people that you love, you can accomplish anything.
That is so true. And I am so glad to hear the story that how changing your diet can actually changing your life, and not just yours, but the people you loved around you. It's just so funny because, like I said, a week ago, my husband started to question about the plant-based, which I have talked to him a while. So I am definitely digging into that diet. But first, we got to consume the whole entire refrigerator of meat first. But I am intrigued. How do you go through that journey? And how old was your husband when he diagnosed it with all this health problem?
He was 36 years old. He was
Wow.
young. He was young. I left him home. I took my son to the park, and he called me and he said that he had a pain going through his chest and his arm. And he didn't think he was having a heart attack because he was so young, but his dad came to pick him up and bring him to the hospital. And, we were a good weight. We were athletes. He was a phys ed teacher. Our friends were gaining those 2-3 pounds a year, but we weren't. we looked healthy on the outside, but we really understood that we weren't as healthy as can be on the inside. And it's not just food, it's also lack of exercise, or for some people too much exercise, because that's still creating oxidative stress in the body. There's mental health and stress. There's concussions from martial arts or falling off your bike or
Yeah,
playing
right.
hockey. You know, these are the different things that we had experienced. And there's toxicity on our food. There's, for some people, there's toxicity in their walls. So we don't know what else is really going on around us. And while food is definitely the biggest portion of it, there are other things that we need to be doing as well to take care of our bodies, especially if we don't feel well, if we don't feel like we're showing up as our best selves every day.
Did you follow any guidance from a certain person, or did you just do the research based on your own and follow that gut instinct?
So
the
9
plant-based
years ago,
diet?
there wasn't information like there was today. There were a couple of books out there. There were a couple of people post a couple of websites, but not like today. Today, you look it up, you don't know what to look
Yeah,
at. Back then, there wasn't much, and all we knew was to give up the animal products, give up the dairy, give up the eggs, give up the fish, give up.
eggs are part of it too.
Eggs was part of it too, and we concentrated on nuts, seeds, legumes, fruits, vegetables, grains, pulses. Those were the foods that we were eating. And then, you know, slowly we learned we needed to make sure we were supplementing with a B12. We learned that we needed to make sure that we were supplementing with a vitamin D, like everybody should be. And we, you know, as we got our nutrition certifications behind us, we knew a lot more of what we needed to do. So months and months and almost years of research, you know, now we can almost convey that information to somebody in an hour or 2 hours.
What's the difference between vegan and plant-based?
So if you break it down, it could be nothing, but it could be a lot as well. So when you say you're plant-based, it doesn't mean that you're 100% plant-based. For some people, it's 80. For some people, it's 90%. For me, when I say I'm plant-based, it means I'm 100% plant-based. I don't consume any animal products.
Not even fish or any of the seafood
no fish,
products.
Egg, no dairy. Some plant-based people will consume honey. Vegans normally won't, because the bees are being exploited for the honey. A lot of the beehives, if they get any infection because we're harvesting the honey, need to be burnt down. So vegans tend to err on the side of, I'm not doing anything that's harmful to other beings or to the environment or to the world. So you're kind of going at it with the value of just making sure that you're taking care of everybody else and doing the best thing, showing up as compassionately as you want in life. Plant-based means that you are choosing foods that are plant heavy, that are usually minimally refined or minimally processed, and that you're usually making that decision for your own body, for your own personal health. However, along the way, most plant-based people do start to adopt a lot of the vegan values and ethics, and a lot of vegans, if they're eating junk food vegan diets, along the way, they do realize that they need to change what they're eating, or they're not any more healthier than anybody else, and they won't have the stamina to do the work that they want to do in the world. And they normally do end up putting a lot more plants into their diet as well.
Great. Thank you for the explanation. And is it hard for you two boys to have that type of diet in school where all the kids are eating things that normal kids would eat, like, you know, hot dogs and hamburgers? And
so I don't think there's a lot of hot dogs, hamburgers too much going on at school, but our kids are very happy bringing their own food. They like the food that they have. My son is very upset by the fact that his friends are eating foods that he knows will have a negative effect on their body, short-term or long-term. They hear us talking on the podcast and interviews all the time. So, you know, he'll come home and he'll say, Mom, if autopsies are being done on 10-year-olds and 10-year-olds already have heart disease, why are so many of my friends eating all of these foods? And so he understands it. She just wants to have the vegan version of everything that she wants to have. So they're a little bit different in terms of their in terms of their mindset and how they interact. But what I've seen with him is there's been a little bit of bullying with it, like kids holding up their meat in his face. But, you know, we overcame that. And with her, what I see is the opposite. I have parents calling me saying, my daughter wants to eat the cheese that she saw your daughter eating at school. Where do I buy this vegan cheese? What is it called? So
Is there a vegan cheese?
yeah, there's vegan
Oh,
cheese. You can make cheese from cashews, from almonds, from soy. And then there's
wow. I did not know that.
oh yeah, you can get everything. You don't have to give anything up.
Okay, so that leads to, do you help moms? What is your service? Do you help people to pack their food so their kids can eat well and also be healthy?
Sure. So my services really vary. Through the Plant Trainers podcast, we are putting out information every single week. We often interview the leading experts, leading doctors in plant-based nutrition. So if you've seen Forks Over Knives or What the Health or Game Changers, we've interviewed so many of those doctors and spoken with them on stages. So we put that out every single week. That really helps people not only understand the why, but also give them action on the how. And I will sit down and I will work with people. I'll do food audits. So they might say, here's what I eat for a week. Help me eat more plants, or help me meal plan for my family, or what should I pack my kids for lunch? So I will do that. I tend to work with a lot of health practitioners as well. So we create different handouts for them to give to their clients or patients on how to eat more plant-based.
Yeah.
And then I also work with people who are not getting the results that they want maybe they're not willing to change their diet yet, or maybe they've changed everything they can and they're still not getting results, but they're experiencing fatigue, chronic disease, or just, you know, insomnia or no energy. And I work with very, very specific supplements in that case as well, paying attention to exactly what the body needs, not overdosing the body and hoping that something takes. So I do that in a very specific way as well.
That's just awesome. But I want to ask you that I know that you have a little Redox in your website or on your somewhere that on your Facebook. And I, as a former chemist, I know a little bit about, you know, reductions and oxidation in chemistry. Could you explain that to the audience? What is the redox in your body with the food that you consume?
Absolutely. And while I find that I can explain it in a way that everybody can understand, I'm not a chemist and I'm not a doctor, and it does go a little bit deeper, but essentially our body's made up of all of these little cells, and our cells are making our tissue, right? And our cells are making our organs, and our organs are making our systems, and all of that's covered up by our biggest organ, which is our skin. So inside every little cell, we have a little mitochondria, and that's like a factory. And that factory is working hard. It's using, and every cell is like a little bag of salt water, and it's using everything in the body to kind of create our energy and our hormones, and everything's kind of working in tandem. And at the same time, we're creating something called redox. Redox is kind of like the reduction and oxidation in the body. So if you cut an apple and you leave it out on the counter, it turns brown. We don't want that happening to our cells. So we need to reduce that oxidization. We need to reduce the inflammation. We need to keep the cells nice and healthy instead of being dehydrated. So what this redox actually does in the body is it communicates. If you have something wrong with your elbow, it sends a message, hey, there's something wrong with my elbow. I need a little bit of inflammation. That inflammation comes with the healing. The healing happens and the inflammation goes away. But what's happening inside our body is we have blockage of that communication for a couple of reasons. We have dead inflammation in the body. We have toxicity in the body. And a healthy child has a lot of redox. And every 10 years after puberty, we get 10% less. So that means that the bars on our phone are getting less and less and less every month. So you get a brand new phone, it works well, the battery lasts forever. 6 months later, you're like, why do I have to plug this thing in? Or how come the phone doesn't work from behind that wall? I have to go to the front of the house. So that's what's happening in our body. But the problem is that we have so much damage happening to the body. We have toxicity on our food. We're not eating well enough. We have mental health issues, car accidents, you name it. like mold in our wall, whatever it's happening to our body, we need to keep up and clean those cells and keep them fresh and clean. But we are, we just have too many things going on in the body, and we're not fixing our cells on a fast enough level. And that's when we're seeing chronic disease with digestion, inflammation, cardiovascular, hormone issues, immune issues, and people are falling apart a lot faster than we ever expected to.
So the meat product are the causing of the blockage, and the animal product are the one who protein that is not digest well in your body, rather than the plant where would oxidize and is reduction a lot faster in your body. Is that what the reason is?
So, I mean, the reason I work with Redox and the reason I work with plants are actually two different things. You don't need to be plant-based to use the Redox and vice versa. But what's happening in the body is when we're eating foods that are highly acidic, we're causing more damage on the body at a time. So yes, we're eating our, we might be eating a piece of chicken. It might have some good protein in it. We might be eating an egg. It might have choline in it. But what else does it have that's putting damage on the body? So the body's getting damaged. So all of these redox that we have to kind of keep up with the body and keep it as clean as possible, instead of it just dealing with the natural aging process or the environmental factors we can't control, it's having to fight against a lot of these foods that we're eating as well. When we eat a diet rich in plants, what we're doing is we're putting less damage on the body. We're actually eating more antioxidants. The body is absorbing it more, and those redox are free to deal with the genetics. It's free to deal with the mold issue. It's free to deal with the germs that we picked up, from touching a handle somewhere. Right. So the body can keep up at a faster rate. But for some people, even if they are eating plant-based, their bodies are still deteriorating at a much faster pace, and they need extra support as well.
There's so much complexity to it. I guess it's just not pinpoint to just one reason to get the body healthy. I guess you have to ask, look at overall the different aspects in order to evaluate. But is beans part of good protein to substitute? I mean, to eat?
Yes, beans are really, really great to eat. They're great to eat for a couple of reasons. They have a very good fiber, and that fiber allows us to stay fuller longer. That fiber actually attaches itself to toxicity in the body, and it's able to pull that out. And that's really important. We see that colon and rectal cancer are really, really prevalent right now in North America, men and women. And what's happening is people are eating a lot of meat, and they're not going to the bathroom as often as they should. And that meat's sitting in the colon. And when that meat's sitting in the colon, it's sitting there and it's actually poisoning the colon. And the other thing is that meat comes with its own hormones. Even if you're buying meat that doesn't have hormones added to it, it's an animal. We have our own hormones. The animals have their own hormones. When we ingest it, we ingest hormones, and a lot of them are absorbed by the body. A lot of them are recognized by our body, and it actually stimulates our growth, our insulin growth hormones, our IGF-1s, and IGF-1 grows our cells, but it doesn't distinguish between good cells and bad cells, and it's actually can be a cancer growing issue.
I think, the problem that I see a lot of time, girls just mature so fast because they're eating so much hormone meat and things that, they reach puberty sooner and sooner, each decade, I guess. And not to mention the antibiotic that the animal consume, they put it in there, and things that chemically that we do not want to be in our body, and as a side effect, we consume them, so it's become part of our body.
And it's so extremely inflammatory. So I have one woman that I work with, and she's a nurse, and she has an autoimmune disease that creates a lot of inflammation in her joints. And when she went plant-based, she found that it actually reduced the inflammation. She was able to work better. She was still able to exercise. And really cleared up. But then stress built in, and part of her job was extremely physical as a nurse. So that came into play as well. And she found that after a while, just the plants enough wasn't enough for her. And that's when we started using the Redox. But had she not gone to the plants in the first place, by the time I would have found her, she wouldn't have been able to work anymore, because the inflammation just would have been so much. And people really say you are what you eat. And I disagree. Some people say you are what you absorb, which is even more so true. Your cells need to be ready to absorb, because you can eat all you want, but if your body's not absorbing it, you're literally flushing it down the toilet. But you know, you're so much part of your history too. So if you spent a long time, if you had a stressful childhood, if you had PTSD, if you have mental health issues, if you had a car accident, if you have genetic issues, these things still play into who you are today. So sometimes food alone is not the answer, but for so many people, it is the answer. And for so many people, it's a great starting point.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very true key point, because you got to have the mental, the gut balance, the dieting, all aspect of life. And not to gear away, but my husband at 33, he had major gout attack. And it was like those gout diseases called, like, you know, what is it? Rich man's disease or something like that. And he loves meat. He loves meat. But I found that eating a lot of celeries and cherries actually help to tame down his inflammation. And so it is very crucial to have the right diet, the right things that you eat, if you know your body. So how can people find all this information with your help, and, you know, what can you offer to our audience about your service?
Sure. So first of all, I'd love to offer your audience a free consultation if they find that maybe they want to eat a little bit better, or they're trying to do everything else and not really knowing where they want to go, or they want to learn more about the Redox. I'm happy to offer that 30-minute consultation. So they could reach out to me at Shoshana at planttrainers.com. There's 2 T's in there. Or you could find me on Facebook as well. That's
Or you can just put that on our Facebook page.
Or that's it. You can comment below and I'll for sure see that. So you can email me there. If you want to learn more about plant-based lifestyle or what we're doing at the podcast, you can find us on any podcasting app or at planttrainers.com. At planttrainers.com, we also have all of our we have recipes, plant-based recipes, gluten-free recipes. So that's really great as well. And we're very active on Instagram and TikTok at Plant Trainers as well. And I mean, so really the 5 areas that we like to concentrate on mostly are the nutrition. We like to concentrate on movement, stress management, actually 4 areas: stress management, including sleep, and the Redox. And part of what we've done for stress management also is I've recently written a book called I'm a Peaceful Goldfish.
That's what I want to ask you about. Yes.
I'm super excited about it.
Good.
Yeah. So
what is it about?
We're so excited about families. Like I said, we're trying to make sure that families never have to go through what we went through. So I am a peaceful goldfish. I have 2 children who experience, you know, the things in life that little children experience, like the broken crayons and the broken toy and the ripped page. And they're basically teaching each other through imagination and play how to take deep breaths. So they take deep breaths together and use their imagination to be the animals or the characters or the items in the book. And they play through, and they really
great colors too.
Thank you. So I worked with the publisher and found a beautiful, beautiful illustrator to work with, Lori Joy Smith. And
it's so fun.
A pleasure and so much fun. But I'm just so excited for kids to learn about these tools that we're learning about as adults before all of their big traumas really happen, because, you know, they will be healthier because of it. They will absorb better nutrients because of it. Their health will be better because of it if they're given the tools now at a young age and practice it as fun instead of being 30 years old or 35 years old and being told you're going to raise kids on your own. This is when the kids need those skills, not when
Right.
yeah.
And that is what love is about, training them young, because when they're young, it's so easy for them to get used to it. I mean, after 20 years, 30 years of all this greasy and bad food in the restaurant, it's really hard to turn that around and eat right and exercise right. And I'm so glad that you have trained two boys that hopefully they too will influence their friends and more people to understand that what you put in your mouth is so critical. I mean, obviously we heard of the phrase like eat your food like take medicine, or else you're going to take medicine like eating food, just something that we learn about it when we get older. But I'm just so grateful that you're so young, and whatever that journey have led you to turn around and help so many other people besides just helping your own family.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those words. And I hope that everybody's listening. And what I want people to really know is that it doesn't matter where you are today. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what your intentions were yesterday and what you may or may not have done today to keep up with that. Every time we stand up, every time we eat, every time we interact with a new person, we have an opportunity to do something a little bit different. So reward yourself and applaud yourself for those small little victories. And the more you do those small little victories, the more they will become a consistent part of your life.
Yeah, it'll get easier, right? So Sarah, do you have any question for Shoshana?
Yeah, I have one question that's concerning plant-based. When, before we become a plant-based person, we eat meat. So the protein that we got is from meat. So now that when we eliminate the meat, what do you focus on in the plant in order to replace those protein that we lose?
Sure. So you bring up a really good point, which is the point of protein. And protein is something that is very popular. It has a very big hype by the media. And we have 3 macronutrients. It means that we eat them in big amounts. And we eat more of a macronutrient than a micronutrient. And that is carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And society has taken protein and blown it out of proportion. And we are eating disproportionate amounts of protein right now, which is what is mainly responsible for North America's obesity rate, for why we keep going back to the hamburgers. The window diet's a whole other thing, but really we're eating more protein per calories than any other place outside of North America, and we are the sickest. So what's really important to remember is we only need about 8 to 10% of our calories coming from protein. We should be eating more of all the micronutrients when we add them all up than we are of the protein. So we don't need as much as we think we need. That's the first answer. The second answer is if you're making a taco or something that has ground beef in it, you could use lentils and you could spice it up the same way. If you are having a burger, I make beautiful burgers with beets and chickpeas and other kinds of vegetables in there. I use some quinoa or some rice so it sticks together, and it looks reddish, right? It looks reddish from the beets, but I'm using other products for it. If you're making something like a stir fry with chicken on top, chicken strips, you could cut up the tofu or tempeh and season it the same way and do that as well. So there's a lot of different options that we have. And the truth is that there's no one prescription for everybody or one magic ingredient for everybody. What I tend to do is say, show me what you're doing now, and let me show you a few different changes that we can make, because it is so overwhelming to think that we need to do it all at once. My husband went cold tofu overnight. He gave up all meat. He never ate meat again. For me, it took 8 months to get rid of everything, including the eggs and the dairy. The eggs and the dairy took the longest. So everybody kind of will have their own pace, and depending on what you eat, that depends on what will replace. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, we definitely don't need a 20-ounce steak for a meal. It's like everybody needs to have a big slab. The bigger, the better. And definitely one word, tofu. We eat a lot of tofu. Is it good? to have tofu?
Yeah.
Is that processed food?
Absolutely. So it's minimally processed, but it's processed in the way of some things are taken out as opposed to bad things are put in.
Okay.
So you know, tempeh is something where you're actually taking the soybean, that edamame bean, and you're fermenting it down.
Yeah.
And that's how that's being processed. Tofu. But tofu is great. And I know that people will say, wait, you were talking about hormones before. Doesn't tofu have hormones? Those phyto, those are phyto, those are plant estrogen,
Yeah.
and it's not absorbed by the body. It does not attach into our body. It's not responsible for the man breasts. The man breasts are responsible from the window takeout diet. But I get people's concerns. It's because we don't know. It's because we don't know. And we heard from our mother, who was told by our sister, who was told by her brother-in-law that this could be true. And we don't really know. So that's why I work so hard at finding out, so that not everybody has to spend so many hours doing it.
Yeah.
I can provide that information.
My mom's a Buddhist, and lots of time Buddhists have those fasting days that you don't eat meat. Mm-hmm. And a lot of recipe from the temple are made out of gluten, tofus, and they fake chickens, they fake fish, all using tofu and plant-based stuff. So a lot of time, you know, check out some of those recipes. Sometimes you just never know, you know, what you come up with.
Pleasantly surprised. I have people eat at my house. Well, not these days, but normally I have people eat at my house all the time, and they go, "This is actually not so bad. Are you sure there's eggs in this? Are you sure there's eggs?" So yeah,
I think it's a matter of training, and I'm start doing a lot more substitute of beans and chickpeas into my, instead of rice, I do a little quinoa, or I do couscous. And maybe if I have rice that I'm craving for carb, I do a little bit portion of rice that mixed with beans, red beans, or all kind of different beans, black beans, and they actually come out pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's hope for us. That I think it is just a matter of accustomed to your taste. If you train it long enough, your mouth will kind of like get used to it.
Yeah. So right now, most people's mouths are used to salt. And fat. Salt and fat. So oil and fat, and oil and sugar, and oil and salt. And it's almost like there's this coating over our taste buds and over our palate, and we can't actually taste food. So we need to put artificial flavor into it so we could taste it. But if you give yourself about 30 days, you're going to be like, that's what broccoli tastes like.
I know. Can't go to the restaurant to eat anymore because they're so salty.
So salty. I go to restaurants, I say, please don't add any extra salt. Please don't add any extra oil. And they're like, it's not going to taste like anything. And I'm like, no, trust me. To me, it will. But there's things like, did you know that collard greens actually has a flavor, actually has a taste? I could close my eyes and you could put lentils in my mouth, and I could tell you what color lentils those are because I could taste the
wow.
It's amazing how your tastes change, and you start to like things that you never did before. If you would have given me cilantro 10 years ago, forget it. I'm not interested.
Cilantro is something my husband must have at every single soup. Yeah. He loves cilantro.
So delicious.
Yeah.
Delicious. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much. I know we're going over time a little bit, but this is a great topic, and we will have more plant-based people coming on and talk about love, because to love, you got to love yourself first. You got to love your body first. You got to put things in that your body will love you in return. So this is a great segue into love relationship, because we can't get anywhere unless we are around, and we want to be around by having, you know, a longevity life, and so we can be with our loved one. So thank you so much, Shoshana. I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your struggle, what you learn, and helping other people to learn on the way to a healthy and to be around a long time with their family.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.